All right. Oh, that's better. Yes. Hi, I'm Brent. Thank you again for being here. I'm going to introduce our host for the evening. First of all, he's a good friend. Jamie Tennant is a local writer extraordinaire. He's the author of The Captain of Canoe Hill, and most recently, a wonderful novel called River Diverted. He is a radio guy, and he hosts a show on CFMU, local radio station called Get Lit. So he runs a radio show for writers and reading, which makes it the best radio show ever, right? Yeah. So welcome, Jamie, and thank you so much for being here to help. And Jamie Tennant, come on up.
I hope I can live up to that. I'm a radio guy, but I get nervous in front of crowds, so I might just be muttering and stumbling through words I have no idea. Well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming out. It's half winter, half spring out there, depending on what block you're on, so hopefully it'll stay like spring-like when you all have to drive home. Speaking of driving home, if you don't have to, I want to read about the special drink. Was this your invention? Okay, so Brent's got another sideline that's coming up with cocktails. So if you've read the book, you'll get the reference in the name. It's called the Lori Martins, which is a rocks margarita with a pinch of salt and a splash of grenadine. There's also a non-alcoholic version too, if you are driving. So and Brent tells me it's delicious. So that's a good thing. It's all very symbolic. His protagonist, Lori, would approve of the stiff tequila beverage. And the rocks are a nod to the earthquake that's in the book. And the salt is a nod to the tsunami that's in the book. And the grenadine to all, as Brent has written here, all the bloody mayhem in the book that the characters get up to. This is what happens when you let a writer design a drink. Like everything means something. It's impressive. But anyway, you can get that over here and many other things from our excellent, excellent bartender. Thank you so much for working tonight. Yes. And to our man for doing sound as well. That's always appreciated. Yeah, I got your first on the page. I was just mixing it up a bit. If you want to buy stuff that's not drinks or beverages or what have you, you want to buy a book from Jamie over here. Epic Books is here. 2 locations, Locke Street and Sherman Avenue North. So pick up a book. Brent will happily sign one for you as well. And make sure you buy 2. They make great gifts, apparently, Brent was saying earlier. So I do want to say, before we get on to anything else, though, that here in Hamilton, Ontario, we're on the ancestral lands of the Mississauga and the Haudenosaunee people in the territory covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many people from all Indigenous people from across what they call Turtle Island. We recognize our responsibility to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as settlers, neighbors, and caretakers of the land. First, before Brent comes up to do any reading, though, we're going to be treated to a little bit of music. So we're going to hear a song from Hannah Sloots is here this evening. A singer-songwriter from Hamilton, Ontario. Her music leans pop soul with memorable melodies and deeply relatable lyrics. Sloots draws from her upbringing on jazz standards, background in classical voice, and love of pop and R&B. As she writes music that is simultaneously light and honest. Hannah is one of Brent's former students and another bright soul who's doing amazing things. So he's thankful that she's here to perform, and so are we all.
Good evening. Sorry about that. Elise and I, who you'll hear from later tonight, were in Brent's creative writing class a few years ago. And Brent used to do this thing where everyone would read an excerpt of our work, and then he would set a timer and everybody would talk about it, and you weren't allowed to say anything. You just had to write everything down. So you weren't allowed to disclaim or explain or defend yourself, and you just had to listen to this conversation. I think it was like 10 minutes or something where everyone just talked about your work in front of you. And Elise and I run a songwriting circle together called the Shaky Knees Club, and we were toying around with the idea of adopting that practice because we'll share songs with each other and then give feedback, but we weren't sure if that would if that would fly with everyone. So maybe we'll do it for a future circle. So I understand that the new book is a thriller. And Elise and I said we would play some broody covers, but I thought I would start us off with maybe a lighter broody cover before things get too serious. So maybe some of you know this song. It's an older song called Silver Dagger. Don't sing love songs, you'll wake my mother. She's sleeping here, right by my side. And in her right hand, a silver dagger. She says that I can't be your bride. All men are false, says my mother. They'll tell you wicked, loving lies. The very next evening, they'll court another, leave you alone to pine inside. My daddy is a handsome devil. He's got a chain 5 miles long, and every link a heart does dangle of another man. He's loved and wrong. Go court another tender maiden and hope that she will be your wife. For I've been warned and I've decided to sleep alone all of my life. Thank you.
Right, Hannah Sloots, thank you very much, man. Let's have another round of applause, I mean. Or another round if you drank that quickly. I'd be impressed, but you know. That was great. Thank you very much. So now, do I say the way I was told to say your name, or do I go for the Dutch pronunciation? I'm not sure. I'm in a room that could be dangerous. So Brent van Staalduinen, close? Staalduinen? Okay, I gave it a go. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't have. Brent van Staalduinen, as I've also heard it said, writes podcasts and teaches right here in Hamilton, Ontario. He's the award-winning author of novels like Unthinkable, which is what we're celebrating tonight. And if I didn't mention it, there's a couple for sale on the back table. Nothing But Life, Saints Unexpected, Boy, and of course, the recent-ish collection, Cut Road. The stories have been published in journals and magazines on both sides of the Atlantic and have won the Bristol Short Story Prize, the Fiddlehead Best Fiction Award, and the Lush Triumphant Literary Award. Lush Triumphant. That's an impressive name. He's also creator and co-host of a podcast called Rejected Central, which I got to be a guest on once. That was a lot of fun, which explores the history, pain, and humor of rejection. He lives across the 403 there in Westdale with his wife Rosalie and daughters Nora and Alita, who are all three are here, I believe, right over here. Hey, folks. And we're going to get a treat. We're going to have Brent come up and read from his new book, Unthinkable. Then we're going to set a timer. And you don't get to say anything for 10 minutes. No, we're not going to do that. Welcome up, Brent.
The book is a story of what happens after disaster. And there's two really big disasters that happen in The Unthinkable, and they combine to be called The Unthinkable. The first is an attack on the cities on the western seaboard of North America with dirty bombs and things. And so in the ensuing chaos of things are off the rails and people don't know how to respond, contamination and all sorts of things that are very unpleasant. But in the midst of all that, the big one happens as well. And as most of you probably know, the big one is what they talk about when they talk about mostly California. There's a long fault line that goes all the way from Alaska right down, I think it's past Chile. And it's called the subduction zone. And the big one is when that moves. People are worried that when that happens, it's going to cause mass craziness. And that happens in the book. And the result is incredible earthquakes all up and down the western seaboard. And the resulting tsunamis, while people are still recovering from the attacks, further decimates the coast. So my novel takes place, it starts in a little barge settlement where people have purchased barges and made houseboats out of them, basically, called Barren Arm. And my protagonist's name is Lori Martin. Yes, Lori of the drink fame. And she lives there, and she has lived there ever since getting out of the army. And she has befriended and become the lover of a man named Neil. And I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to actually do a reading prologue. Now, often if you're a writer, you'll hear that prologues are bad news, but I'm actually going to flaunt it tonight. And I'm going to read a little prologue to set the mood about the kind of things that happen just before the events of the novel take place. Spoiler, it's the tsunami. We heard the jet roar of an angry ocean. And then there it was, black with silt, relentless, smashing through Barren Arm with an obscene kind of ease. The swirling mess of seawater and wood and steel, it had a sound too, a moaning, grinding chorus I can still hear if I want to, if I dig deep enough. Hours later, when the water levels had stabilized, we limped down from the mountain as the sun rose. We took stock of what had been lost, and what could be saved. Our legs were unsteady as we stepped around the debris left by the waves, our feet sinking into fresh, salty mud. Aftershocks arrived with unpredictable and heart-stopping frequency. The water was fetid with waste and flesh and what seemed like the splintered trunks of a million trees. A new tree line had been carved into the forest, 20 feet higher than the highest tides had ever risen. All right, so that's setting the mood. That's setting the mood. I'm going to read from a little bit next I'm going to read from a little ways into the novel. What starts the events of the novel is that Neil, Lori's best friend and lover, has been murdered in his sleep, in the midst of all of this. And so in addition to grieving the loss of really her only friend, she also has to try and figure out what happened to this guy that she has, by reluctant choice, given so much of her life to. And in the middle of this thing, the thing called the unthinkable, Lori has had to adjust a lot of things. She is a veteran with a very troubled past, but Baron Arm and the other settlers there don't know exactly what she's been up to. She's a medic, but she was a special operations medic who did things that went well beyond what medics typically do. But the settlement doesn't know that. They see her as kind of a brooding, troubled woman who lives on her barge, who's made friends with this guy, and they don't know really that she possesses incredible combat skills in addition to her medical skills. And they don't know that. Now, because she's a veteran, they've made her the unofficial sort of sheriff of the community, and so she's handled little things like little conflicts and all of that. But the unthinkable has caused so much strife and so much pain, and in the middle of it, it comes out that one of the other settler couples has had things progress even further. And she's had to banish a guy named Henry for abusing his partner. So the section I'm going to read is Henry coming back. He wants to come back and he doesn't accept what has been happening to him. So this is where Baron Arm, all the other settlers who have survived the unthinkable, they get to learn about and see the real Lori Martins, which is quite a shock. And we also meet Rena, who plays a very important role in the thing that Neil was protecting at the time of his death. He's involved in an ancient secret as well. So Henry's coming back. Shit, she says. I had to put that in there. I had a few minutes before the boat would arrive, so I made a quick decision and ran across the gangplanks to my barge. Once inside, I dug into the very back of my bedroom closet to the old barracks box I'd stashed there, which held the few army things I kept after my retirement. The first thing I'd done when arriving in Baron Arm was lock away my old kit. There wasn't much left, and nothing online or connected. There were a couple of old uniforms we called dummies, unconnected relics we wore in places that weren't supposed to exist, and where we definitely weren't supposed to be. There was tactical and protective gear we were subsidized for, but we bought on our own. And at the bottom of my old stuff was a composite handgun I'd smuggled out of Kabul just before it finally fell, a couple of months before I retired. I drew it from its carbon holster, custom formed for me and the unique biomechanics of my left-handed draw, pulled back the slide and chambered the first bullet in the magazine. The pistol's action was as smooth as ever. It weighed next to nothing, resting in my hand as easily and casually as a handshake. I put it back in the holster and clipped the arrangement to the rear waistband of my pants under my shirt. When I returned to the berth where I knew the boat would land, the jetty was in such rough shape only 2 spots remained, and Stan's boat was tied up to the other. Henry had the tie lines in hand and looked ready to jump onto the jetty, and his eyes narrowed when he saw me. "Stop!" I shouted at the boat. I tried to look hard at the wheelhouse, hoping it would be intimidating enough to make it to the captain inside. There was no noise from the boat, which must have been running on batteries. I waited for the rush of props being thrown into reverse after my look. Nothing. As the boat drew nearer, I thought about Sierra. Sierra is Henry's former partner. Back up at the gardens and longing for the paint strip hooch her gardening allies concocted, but that she wouldn't touch because of the pregnancy. I hoped she hadn't seen the boat. This was a complication I hadn't foreseen. A moment later, Henry jumped to the jetty and tied off. The woman on the boat, who looked to be in her mid to late 20s, threw the rear line with one hand while the other gripped the gunwale hard enough that her knuckles were white, not used to the water. There was a large khaki backpack at her feet, clean and new, cinched tight and tidy as though she was disembarking for a backpacking adventure, a grad present from adoring parents rather than boating around a disaster zone. The captain of the small craft cut the motor and stepped outside to help her step onto the jetty. She looked relieved when her feet touched the concrete. "Henry, you can't stay here," I said. "I want to see Sierra." The captain bent down and heaved the woman's and Henry's packs onto the jetty. Well, there was one question answered. Henry intended to stay. You need to take this guy away, I said to the captain. He paid cash. He was banished. That's your business. My job's done. I reached behind me and drew out my pistol, bringing it in front of me with both hands and pointing it at the ground. The woman uttered a low squeal and took a step back when she saw the gun. Get back on the boat and go, Henry. Fuck you, Laurie, I'm staying. I pointed the gun at him. He swallowed and went pale for an instant, but stood his ground. Jesus, where was the simpering idiot from the other day? I shifted and aimed the gun at the captain. You then, get him back on the boat and get him out of here. He just gave me a sardonic look. And we didn't get a chance to exchange our names. This was not going well at all. You're not going to shoot me, he said. This isn't the first time I've had a gun in my face. Get off the boat, I said. Look, I get that you're pissed, but how would that work, eh? Should I lift him up and throw him back on board? I said, I don't want to. Henry, untie me, the captain said. Henry jumped to free the ropes from the stanchion, and the captain moved back toward the wheelhouse, wishing us best of luck over his shoulder. I lowered the gun. The boat's engines whirred as it eased away from the jetty, leaving me, Henry, and the woman standing alone and looking at each other. Nothing was said for a few moments as the captain accelerated toward the mouth of Smith Cove. You're not going to shoot me either, Henry said, and walked away towards the shore. I looked at the woman. Who the fuck are you? She opened her mouth to reply, but managed to utter only a wet, choking sound. Fear will do that to a person, I knew. She winced, swallowed, licked her lips, and tried again. I'm Rena. Rena Diamante from Jersey. Well, Rena Diamante from Jersey, I don't know what your deal is, but you're going to stay right here until I get back. Clear? She nodded and sat down on her pack, looking almost grateful that she didn't have to make any more decisions for the moment, her hands dangling between her knees. Well, whoever she was, at least she wasn't fighting me. I jogged after Henry, who'd walked quickly and made it about halfway to the quay. He knew Sierra's routines and was going to the gardens. I wasn't sure where he'd found the burst of defiance, but it worried me. Suddenly confident men are dangerous men indeed. I felt my heart rate increase at an alarming rate given the short distance I'd run. God, I was out of shape, despite my self-reassurances to the contrary. Life at Barren Arm had been hard and demanding, and it kept me strong. But healthy and fit don't always mean the same thing, do they? I closed the distance and slowed myself to match his pace, 10 feet behind. Henry, stop. He kept moving. I drew back the pistol slide and chambered a new round, the one that had been in the chamber leaping upwards. I caught it with my right hand and put it in my pocket. The sound of the pistol's synthetic components was subdued compared to an all-metal gun, but still sharp and loud enough to be heard and understood. I saw Henry's shoulders tense upwards, and for an instant I thought he'd stop. But he didn't. Come on, don't make me do this. No response. I raised my weapon and evened out my breath as we walked. I aimed at his right ear, and then reconsidered and lowered my weapon a bit. I'd wanted to clip him in the ear, a dramatic and unmissable statement about precisely what I was capable of. But honestly, it was just as likely that I'd put through the back of his head. Although the pistol felt familiar and warm and comfortable in my grip, I knew the years between the last time I'd fired it and now was too great to try for precision. Besides, there was the mess to consider. Barren Arm was a peace-loving place with gentle people who had no clue what a 10-millimeter bullet would do to a person's skull. How would they react to seeing Henry's brains splattered on the ground in front of him? How differently would they look at me? I checked the backdrop, clear, only debris and trees, and squeezed the trigger. The shot was a crisp snapping sound against the woods, the recoil sharp through my hands and arms and into my shoulders. It felt good, right. It had been too long. The bullet furrowed Henry's right shoulder, bursting out a star point of fabric, tiny bits of flesh, and vaporized droplets of blood. It happened so quickly that he didn't notice anything was wrong until a couple steps farther, when everything began to coalesce in his mind. Impact, sound, pain. He stopped, raised a hand almost to the shoulder, then stopped when he saw the mess there, looking undecided about whether to apply pressure or not. He turned towards me with an incredulous look on his face that lasted only for an instant until the pain arrived. His face seemed to twist in on itself, becoming almost unrecognizable. "You shot me!" "No, I warned you," I said. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
So Lori's not messing around, and she continues to not mess around for the remainder of the book, because Henry turns out to be the least of her problems to come. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, you'll read the book, and it's right over there. Jamie from Epic Books has a couple of books for you. Makes a great gift for family, friends, pets. Thanks, man. That was really, really great. Thanks for sharing that with us here today. And again, thanks to everyone for coming out. We have some more entertainment for you right now. Elise Arsenault, who we sort of met through that was the best you did during the pandemic, right? Was meeting someone on a screen. She has done things with Brent before for book launches. She's a writer and a musician from Hamilton, Ontario. Her body of work explores the strangeness and sacredness of being alive. It might have started when she used her 12th birthday money to buy thesaurus. Is that true story? I like that. That's good. I think I played video games with my money. Or when she started walking the neighbor's dog, Murphy, to save up for a guitar. These days, she writes about art, place, and young womanhood, and hopes to release more music. She's also, as Hannah mentioned earlier, Brent's former writing student and present fellow co-conspirator on the Hamilton Literary Reading Series scene. And he's very excited and grateful that she's here, as are we. Elise.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And man, I'm shaken after that reading. You still feel it? Do you feel the impact of, of well-crafted words? I can't wait to dive in. All right, so this is also a cover song. It's called One by U2. And Brent requested, he said, even if you want to play something and yell in it, or really give her. And I was like, this is the best I can do, man. I'm like a singer-songwriter. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. Is it getting better? Or do you feel the same? Will it make it easier on you now? You've got someone to blame. You say one love, one life, when it's one need in the night. One love, we get to share it. It leaves you, baby, if you don't care for it. Did I disappoint you? Or leave a bad taste in your mouth? You act like you never had love, and you want me to go without. Well, it's too late tonight to drag the past out into the light. We are one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other. One, one. Have you come here for forgiveness? Have you come to raise the dead? Have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head? Did I ask too much, more than a lot? You gave me nothing and now it's all I've got. We are one, but we're not the same. Well, we hurt each other, then we do it again. You say love is a temple, love's a higher law. Love is a temple, love's a higher law. You ask me to enter, but then you make me crawl, and I can't be holding on to what you've got when all you've got is hurt. One love, one blood, one life. You got to do what you should. One life with each other. Sisters, sisters, brothers, brothers, we are one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other, one. We are one. We are one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other, one. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. You coming back up, Jamie? No? Inviting Brent back up, everybody.
I love that they both chose songs that the words were just so good. Being a writer wrecks you to badly written things, doesn't it? To the writers in the room, it's what a gift. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was great. Figure out what page I'm on here. I wrote my thank yous out this time because I was a little worried that I may not be able to get through it without being really emotional and not having it written down. For the simple fact that we've all been through this thing over the last 4 years that has kept us apart, that has hurt and killed so many people. And so this is the first time I get to launch a book with my friends and family in person since 2016, my first novel. I had to put 3 books out into the pandemic, and while technology has made that, the virtual launches so easy and accessible, and what a gift that is, it's just so good to be doing this in real life with you all and to actually give people hugs at the door. So I'm gonna go through this as best as I can. So I'm going to start with Rosalie. Thank you to my wife and my first reader for everything. Thank you to Nora and Alita for being here tonight, and who are my second biggest champions in the world. You guys are awesome. I hope you're having fun. Yeah? Good. You can come to the next one too, right? I want to thank my folks. They're over here. My siblings in law, both here and remotely. Hi, Dennis. Yeah, you really realize how blessed you are when you have family cheering you on, and that is something I'm really, really grateful for. I want to thank Matt Jowdry and the rest of the At Bay Press team. At Bay Press is a small publisher based in Winnipeg, and they took a chance on investing in this book, because what you hold in your hands costs a ton of money to do, and they say to me, we think it's good enough that this is going to make us some money. So it really is. In addition to the financial investment, it's also an emotional and social and labor of love investment. So thank you to Matt and the rest of the At Bay Press team for putting this book into the world. I want to thank everybody who's been involved tonight. First, domo arigato to Jamie, who again has been an exceptional host. So let's give Jamie a really, really big round of applause. Cheers for that. And I want to thank Elise and Hannah for giving us some beautiful words and beautiful music at the same time and putting them together in that alchemic way that music and words working together does. That was gorgeous. Thank you. An applause for them too. I want to thank the Staircase crew, Gabe and Matt and Mark, and if there's anybody I haven't met yet, but that was working behind the scenes here, thank you for putting on this tonight and for hosting, and for Lit Live too. We do this thing every month where we get together and share words, which is pretty cool, and they're very good hosts for that as well. And this venue is incredible. So thank you again. Thank Jamie at Epic Books. Independent booksellers are the biggest champions of the printed words you can imagine. They know books, they love books, they come out to sell books and support writers. And if you ever need a read, you go to them because they will help you out. And thank you, Jamie, for being here and for again being my bookseller. And did we mention there's some books for sale at the back and that they make great gifts for people who want to know what happens next? And finally, I think I want to thank again, and I've said it a few times, thank you, readers, friends, family, new, old, here, away, both, yeah, just in person, virtually, just knowing that there are people not only buying books, which is great, but cheering me on, supporting me, and that is just the best thing ever. You really, really make it real to me that words matter a lot. And because I get to put them together in funny ways, knowing that they land well and matter because of you is really, really cool. So give yourselves a huge round. And finally, we're not done. I'm here, and we have the place till 9. There's beverages and snacks. There's a menu board. There are more books. I'm here to sign books. Do I have it with me? It's on the table there. My wife gave me a new signing pen, which I would love to use. I have. Yes, I have. Thank you, Alita. I'm going to rephrase this, which I would love to use again and more. How about that? Better. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Stay, mingle, socialize. It's just great to have you here. Thank you again.